Page 13, Waltz in A minor. The way I'll approach this waltz is start playing it slowly, and whenever I come to something rather tricky, I will stop and describe it. Before I do that, though, let me repeat the fact that it is a waltz, therefore 3/4 time. So at the most there are 6 eighth notes in a measure. Regarding the format for the song, we have a 16 measure section, which is the A part. That's repeated twice. Then we have a 16 measure section B part, which is also repeated twice. For this first playthrough, I won't do the repeats. I'll just be playing and stopping and describing where there are some particularly tricky business things to take care of. Here's the count. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now before I go on, let me mention that I'm on an A minor chord throughout that first measure. By now, you should know the fingering for that A minor chord, certainly if you've been through volume 1 and 2. Here we are again from the top. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Shift. Now right there, those last 4 notes I just played, the fingering is shown above them. It looks like an A minor shaped chord, but it's at the 6th fret for a D minor. That is, again, the same shape as the starter chord of A minor. Then, before I actually play in tempo, let me go on to the next measure, which is double notes, 5th and 6th frets, at 2nd and 1st strings respectively, followed by a bar at 9th fret. Then just add the middle finger on the next pair of double notes, followed by, in the next measure, another finger position you need to make, a higher form of A minor, with middle finger starting off at 2nd string 10th. Ring finger is now at 1st string 10th. The middle finger should be retained at 2nd string 10th. And the index finger is at 3rd string 9th. Immediately followed by an open string to get you back to the A minor chord in measure 9. So let me start at measure 5 and play on from there till I get to my next treble spot. Measure 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now, let me stop there, A, because I played it in an ugly manner, and B, just to point out that we're on a D minor chord, which is a typical D minor chord on the banjo. That is 1st finger at the 3rd string, 2nd fret, middle finger at the 2nd string, 3rd fret, and the ring finger at 1st string, 3rd fret. There is the whole D minor chord plucked on 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings. So you get through that entire measure, we are on measure 11 for those of you counting measures. It starts the picking at the first string. Now that open fifth string at the end of measure 11 gives you time to switch to a higher up the neck D minor, which we used previously, and that is with the A minor shape. But now it's at 7, 6, 7, 6, 7. And again, whenever you see these diagrams appear above a measure, it means you're holding down some kind of chord fingering. So let me now go back to measure 9 and play from there. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now I just finished measure 14. Measure 13 and 14 are two forms of a D chord. The first one at measure 13 is a typical D chord, which you should know by now. 1 and 2 and 3 and. That fifth string gives you time to switch to a bar D chord at 7th fret. And then, going on, okay, so that was a lot of stuff going on. So I will go back and play from letter A, from the beginning again, without any blabbing, and hopefully you can follow this okay. 1 and 2 and 3 and. There we are at the end of the A part. Moving on to letter B, measure 17. We start at a typical C chord, and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and. That's a bar with ring finger. Now we got to shift back to that 5-7 position, which is index pinky. Let me go that far once more from measure 17, and then another trouble spot will occur. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Bar with ring. Here's that D minor chord. I call it the A minor shaped D minor chord. Next measure is quite simple. You have a fifth string open, shift that D minor chord forward 2 frets, and you just pick through that same kind of fingering 2 frets higher. Next, at measure 21 on the next line, we do a bar F chord at 10th fret. Add your pinky, 5th string open, and we go way up to 14th, 13th frets. Now we do what I would call a walk down on the double notes of 2nd and 1st strings, with 5th strings in between each one. So we are on now measure 23, playing through all these downward moving double notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and. And that's the first beat of measure 25 right there, which is a C chord. So now let me play from measure 21, and I'll go on until the next problem spot occurs. Measure 21, we have a bar at the 10th fret. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Recognize that D minor chord there at 6 and 7. Shift up, and you get a type of E minor chord. Then you back up to 6th and 7th frets on 2nd and 1st strings. Bar with your ring finger, 12 and 12. More double notes. And it ends up with an A minor chord at 5th and 7th frets. The 5th fret part of it is a bar with your index finger, and then the high note of it is the pinky at 7th fret. So let me do a quick review of all the A minor chords covered in Waltz in A minor. We started at an A minor chord at the regular position, 2nd and 1st frets. We've also used a bar A minor at 5th fret and pinky at 1st string 7th fret. And then we've also used an A minor up at 9th and 10th frets. That's index finger, 3rd string, 9th fret, and middle and ring fingers covering 2nd and 1st strings at 10th fret. Later on in the book, we'll be getting into more of how to find these various inversions of minor and major chords. Then we also incorporated some D minors into this. The first one we came across was up at 6th and 7th frets. That was found in measure 6. But we also used what I guess I would call a standard D minor in measure 11, which is at the 2nd and 3rd frets. And now I'll play Waltz in A minor entirely through with the repeats. 1 and 2 and 3 and.